archived. Hang on one second. Okay, I had to press the record button. Then it gave me an error message. So it is being recorded, and we'll post this with our other recorded webinars on YouTube. We'll also send you a link that in an automatic email that you'll get. And please feel free to share this link with anyone else in your agency or anyone else that you think might be interested in. We currently have about 150 people on the webinar right now. During the webinar, you may experience some momentary lapses in the audio. This is normal. It should not interfere with the overall content of the presentation. If you're having extreme difficulty hearing the presentation, then I'm going to suggest that you come back and take a look at the archived version of it, and the recording and the audio will be clear, and you can send in questions, and we'll try to get those answered for you individually. When the webinar ends, you'll have a short survey. If you just please take the time to fill it out, there's only like a couple of questions there. We will not be providing certificates for today's webinar just due to the specific topic and the time limited nature of it. It's not really appropriate for a certificate. But if you do need proof of attendance for your supervisor or for your work, please send me an email and I'll provide that for you. So today's presenter is Lauren Chernoff. Lauren is a campaign representative with the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Go Direct campaign. She works for Weber Shandwick, which is the public relations agency selected by the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve Bank in 2005 to conduct grassroots outreach on their behalf. And I just want to say, now we've been working with Go Direct almost since its inception, I think since 2007. And I've been working with Lauren for at least like 4 years or so. I just want to let people know, I mean, Lauren has been an absolutely fantastic partner with this. Anytime we've ever asked her for any help or support or to do a presentation for us, she's been spot on right there. And I just want to let everyone know that she's a great partner, and I appreciate your joining us today and presenting, Lauren. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Tony, for the very kind introduction and for obviously having me participate on another webinar as we near the new year and the March 1st, 2013 deadline. So just to kind of kick things off, as many of you know, or some of you might not be as familiar, the U.S. Treasury, as of March 1st, 2013, will be requiring that federal benefit payments go all electronic. Therefore, folks that are currently receiving paper checks for their benefits, including Social Security and supplemental security income, will be no longer receiving that paper check and selecting a form of direct deposit for their benefits. So as I move on to the next slide, I really just want to showcase a slight overview of New York in terms of the paper checks that are coming into the state when some of these folks could be consumers that you work with on a regular basis. So in New York today, there are more than 3.7 million monthly federal benefit payments already being made via direct deposit to a bank account or credit union account or to the Direct Express card option, which I'll explain a little bit later in the presentation. Furthermore, there are still nearly close to 300,000 paper checks coming into the state of New York on a monthly basis, and these are really the folks that we need to inform and to make sure that they're getting the proper information to make the appropriate switch ahead of the March 1st, 2013 deadline. And then the image to the right on the slide highlights the top 10 counties in New York with the highest number of Social Security payments coming in via paper check. So just thought that was something interesting to share as many of you are located all across the state of New York. So I want to highlight the requirement details. The U.S. Department of the Treasury issued a final rule in December 2010 requiring that all federal benefit and non-tax payments be made electronically. Therefore, the rule affects current check recipients. These are people who are already receiving their federal benefit payments via check, and they're required to obviously switch to electronic payments by March 1st of the new year. And then the rule also affects people who are newly applying for benefits, so anyone that is applying they will receive their payments electronically from day one. So that's the information that they are receiving when they go in to apply. Also wanted to share which specific federal benefit payments are impacted by the rule. As I mentioned before, it includes Social Security and SSI, Veterans Affairs, Railroad Retirement Board, Office of Personnel Management, and Department of Labor. And the Social Security benefits are probably the largest pool of benefits that will be impacted by this change and make up a majority of those paper checks. So just a little bit of background why the Treasury is taking this step now. Electronic payments are really becoming more widespread, and they provide many advantages to federal beneficiaries. There's the safety component, no risk of lost or stolen checks. Folks don't need to make a trip to cash or deposit a check. Reliable money arrives. Designated on time every time. And disaster readiness, I think this is something that sometimes people often don't always think about, but it definitely is it's a protection to avoid delivery disruptions caused by severe weather. This could be, as you all recently experienced, Hurricane Sandy and just some other broader issues. It alleviates some of that worry, and it's more cost effective. So a little bit of information about the two Treasury recommended options for folks as they switch from the paper check to electronic payments. Direct deposit, so folks with checking or savings accounts can sign up to get their money via direct deposit, and they basically get their federal benefit payment that goes straight into their account on payment day each month, and it's on time every time. The other option is the Direct Express Debit MasterCard, and this option is for people who prefer a prepaid debit card, and they can sign up for this. No bank account or credit check is required to use this product. The money is posted to the card account on payment day each month, just like direct deposit to a bank or credit union account that's already set up. Cardholders can make purchases and get cash back with purchase at no charge where MasterCard is accepted. And there are no sign-up fees, overdraft fees, or monthly fees. And so this option, which I'll mention in a moment, was made available to benefit recipients in 2008. So a little bit more detail about the card. Like I mentioned, it was introduced in 2008 as another safe and convenient alternative to paper checks for federal benefits. There was a need for folks that wanted to use direct deposit but didn't necessarily have that option. There's been several surveys conducted over the last few years really showing that the rate among cardholders for satisfaction of the card is very high. And as I mentioned, cardholders can make purchases, pay bills, and get cash. Funds are FDIC insured. There is a PIN number associated with the card for security purposes. And again, as I mentioned before, there are no sign-up fees, monthly fees, or overdraft charges. A few additional details excuse me, about the card that I just wanted to share as we're discussing it. Cardholders can make purchases at retail locations and also get cash back at point of sale. They can also opt to receive notification of deposits made to the card via phone, by email, or text message. Cardholders can also set up low balance alerts and also get unlimited balance inquiries by phone or online, for instance. And the toll-free number for customer service is also available 24/7. And this is really a resource that I encourage many of you to tap should you have questions regarding March 1st, 2013 deadline and how to help the folks that you specifically serve. I'm really utilizing the Treasury's Electronic Payment Solution Center, and it's a 1-800 number. These representatives are very skilled and knowledgeable to really help you navigate this process, and I really do refer you to them to really help get a good sense as to how you should approach next steps as you work with your clients and consumers. So I've included in the presentation just some of the things that people need to know as they, apply to, this, for instance, refers to people who are applying for federal benefits for the first time, but really what they need in order to go down the electronic direct deposit route. And then the next slide is for people who are currently receiving paper checks now, and this just highlights some of the information that folks actually need in order to sign up and take that process forward. And then I've also included the Electronic Payment Solution Center phone number. Again, such a great resource in addition to some of the materials that Tony sent around to folks. I believe it was yesterday, and in addition to everything that's up on our website. Those are just great resources for all of you. And just a little bit of background, as Tony mentioned, the Go Direct campaign has existed for several years now, and it's a public education campaign to inform, benefit recipients as well as organizations like all of yours about the upcoming changes to electronic payments for federal benefits. And there are several ways that we're really trying to raise awareness, and that's via our partners, which is OMH, and all of you who are willing to share this information with your staff and the folks that you serve. There's media efforts and public service announcements that we utilize to share this information and make available to all of you. Free materials such as flyers and posters to utilize in this process, our very robust website, social media channels, and furthermore, folks who do currently receive a paper check, they also receive an insert that accompanies their benefit payment, informing them and alerting them to the upcoming change. So actual benefit recipients are receiving this information directly in their hands as well. So it's a very surround sound approach, really trying to use multiple avenues to make sure this information is being widely shared and distributed. So just really wanting to highlight again the GoDirect website. There's godirect.org, which really takes all the materials and information and places them in one website. And then there's also godirect.gov, which is the website where people can actually make the switch to direct deposit. So I encourage you to also take a look at that. And then again, definitely referencing the 1-800 number for the Treasury's Electronic Payment Solution Center, where representatives are on hand to help all of you throughout this process. And again, really just showcasing that partners, the folks across New York that have been helping share this information. And again, this is a national public education campaign, so we have folks all across the United States that are really helping to share this information as we want to make sure we reach many of the folks who are still receiving their federal benefit payments via paper check. And we just want to make sure that we can educate people about the rule, and then have you all help them sign up for an electronic payment option and help them navigate through that process ahead of the deadline. So I think the kind of just next step that I wanted to share in terms of what we actually have available, again, Tony shared some of the resources in terms of how to actually sign people up, the things that they might need to know and what you all might need to know depending on the way you help your clients. There's free materials like flyers and posters to use maybe in various case management opportunities. There's newsletter copy and tips that you could share more broadly, if you're also looking to share this with your network. We also have educational videos and again the public service announcement just to help reinforce some of that information. And so those are just some of the free materials. We always like to make sure that folks know they can access these things for free on our website. We know that organizations really find this information helpful as a supplement to just the other work that you guys are doing with your clients anyway. So that was really kind of the nuts and bolts of the Go Direct public education campaign and the March 1st, 2013 deadline. So I wanted to kind of run through that with all of you. And then obviously open it up to questions, and if we aren't able to provide a direct response to something that you are wondering about, we're going to diligently try to get all these questions compiled and be able to, get very accurate responses back to all of you.
Okay, well, thank you, Lauren.
Sure.
As I said, we were going to have an extensive Q&A session. I think that was probably what was going to be most needed for today. So I want to encourage people to send in questions. Some things we tried to address a little bit ahead of time, but I think we should go over them again today as well. So one of the questions that we got repeatedly throughout the in the pre-registration survey that we did had to do with representative payees. And I'll just draw from my own experience working in a housing program. So for example, you have several people in your housing program who receive benefits checks. The agency is the rep payee for them. So now what do we have to do? So Lauren, can you speak to that a little bit? And I did send out some information previously, but I will send it out also again after the webinar.
Yeah, of course. So, and definitely there are a lot of very individual, very specific questions related to representative payees and what are the next steps. So again, following the webinar, I really do encourage all of you to call that 1-800 number to kind of get some of those very specific questions kind of just resolved and be able to, talk to that representative who's actually working with, individual benefit recipients and so on to kind of work through some of those kind of questions and inquiries. So I think one thing to note is that Tony had sent around, it's a webinar questions and answers, and it highlights a variety of different scenarios and things involving representative payees. So if there is a representative payee, everyone must move to switching to electronic payments for federal benefits, even if there is an organization that is more of an institutional representative payee for multiple folks. So basically, and again, it's really recommended that you can enroll for direct deposit up to 10 residents at a time via phone by calling as I mentioned before, the Treasury's Electronic Payment Solution Center. There's also a form, it's the form 1200 that you can complete in order to make sure this process also happens, that you can help convert them over to electronic payments. That's definitely one resource that I would encourage you to check out in order to help those folks convert to direct deposit. Also want to mention that if there is a need to change direct deposit from one financial institution to another or from maybe one account to another, if you're going from a patient's personal account to more of like a resident account, then you would definitely want to reach out to the Social Security Administration or to contact whatever the paying agency is. This would just be a way to kind of navigate some of those kind of problem-solving issues as you kind of navigate through the process as a representative payee for a benefit recipient.
So Lauren, while you were speaking, I did I took back the presentation, and
Okay.
what I did is I put up the slideshow that you had sent me. So I put up
Yes.
the specific slide that had to do with payment deposit options. So the first thing that, and I know we may have some other agencies that deal with other disability types. So when I'm speaking, I just want people to understand I'm speaking primarily from an OMH and psychiatric disability perspective. So one thing that we do need to make sure is that if we are, whether or not we are the representative payee, because if the agency is not the representative payee, then the check will go to the person, and the deposit will go to the person either as a direct express card or in a bank account if they have the bank account. And I want to highlight something from an OMH I guess guidance point of view. So it would be the expectation for people in our care, and this is across the board, to be in compliance with the Olmstead decision. Just the day before yesterday, Governor Cuomo had held a meeting on the MISC, which stands for Most Integrated Setting Coordinating Council, and that is our organization or our group to develop an Olmstead plan that each state has to develop in order to be in compliance with federal law. What that means is that people need to be able to live in the most integrated setting possible. Money is obviously something that people need when they're living independently, and being able to manage money is something that's important too. So, what I would encourage our OMH facilities to do is to work with the people, obviously to educate them around this particular change in how they're going to be receiving their checks. And I would say that this is a good opportunity to help people open up bank accounts, learn about becoming more responsible with their money, and to really start building that financial literacy. There are some other programs, and I'll send those lists out to folks like the FDIC Money Smart program. So there are some things to help with that. But really, I mean, if people move out, they're going to have to be writing their own checks to their landlords. So having a checking account, writing a check to, ABC Housing Agency for their rent, that's a very good step in the right direction towards independence. One other thing I want to point out that I was a little disheartened by, some of the questions that came in said things like, our clients are too sick to have a bank account, or our clients are not able to have a bank account because of their disability. Well, I would really encourage people that unless there's a legal guardianship issue, or unless the person has been declared legally incompetent, if there's no legal issues like that, then the majority of people with mental health issues do recover, and it's up to us to make sure that when they on their path to recovery, that we're teaching them the skills they're going to need to be successful, so they don't stay dependent upon us to do these things for them. So I did want to remind people of that Courtney Harding's study and the other studies, the longitudinal studies that happened, that showed that 1/2 to 2/3 of the people do recover. So I'll get off my bully pulpit for right now, and we'll get off to the questions. So hopefully that answered some questions for folks. And I did actually call that 1-800 number, and they were very helpful. It was very quick to get through, and they were very helpful, and they answered my questions right away. So let's go through some of the questions that came in. Can you please provide some information regarding resident trust accounts and how to set them up?
So the resident trust accounts are really thoroughly detailed in the presentation that Tony actually sent around yesterday, and as well as in the webinar questions and answers document that I believe he also sent around. I would recommend referencing that and following this webinar if there are further questions and details that you're unsure about. I'm glad to, either Tony can facilitate sharing the question with me, and I can spend a little bit of time working to get an accurate kind of reply, just to make sure that I'm personally sharing with you the most accurate information. I don't want to misspeak, but I know that there is a ton of information in the resources that Tony had circulated. Not to avoid answering the question, I want to be sure that I'm properly sharing that with all of you.
Right, and I think some of the general questions certainly we want to make sure we get to, but for some very detailed or specific questions with your agency, or any questions that you don't get answered today, then we definitely want to encourage people to call the the experts at the customer service lines who can certainly help you with that. So I had sent out a link for people where they can sign up as a representative payee for a person for a direct deposit. But based on what I just heard Lauren say, she said that you could call and you could get up to 10 at a time, I think. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
It's generally 10 minutes or less to access that phone number, correct?
Yeah, because my guess is that agencies will probably have several folks, and could be a really time-consuming process. So.
Yeah, and they're, super knowledgeable to help navigate some of these things that are just very specific to individual agencies and organizations. And I obviously hate to misspeak, as I'm kind of on just the other side of the spectrum a little bit with the campaign. So obviously I want to be able to provide you with a lot of information, but also the resources to get some of those very specific questions answered as well, and not misspeak or misinterpret.
I did bring up the question and answers that I had sent out yesterday, and brought up one here just as an example about the resident trust account. And then I noticed in subsequent questions there's a common denominator here where about the SSA reversing a direct deposit. So it is important to point out that the Social Security Administration does not reverse direct deposit payments. In the case of overpayments, they follow a particular procedure. And I do want to highlight, folks, that if the Social Security Administration does overpay somebody by accident and they seek to get the repayment and they want to garnish the person's future checks, remember too that you can make a request for a waiver for overpayment, based on the no fault of the person, and the person is through no fault of their own. If they get an overpayment, you can make a request based on the Federal Rehab Act as well as the ADA. So I do want to point that out to folks, and you can get those forms off of the Social Security website. Next question, and there's a few questions in regards to this, ATM withdrawal fees. So I did send out a document yesterday, and you should be seeing it up on your screen right now. So for the Direct Express card and the fees associated with that debit card, as you can see, all of these particular things are free. Specifically, people were asking about ATM cash withdrawals. So down at the bottom, you can see that what the rule is there. You get one free withdrawal with each deposit to your Direct Express card account. So that, for the most part, that's probably going to be one withdrawal per month before there are fees. Now, are there fees that are local fees, Lauren? That because if I use an ATM anywhere, then it's going to be like a $2 or $3 fee for me to use that. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. So their ATM owner surcharges may apply at ATMs that are outside the Direct Express card surcharge-free network, and this information is also on the GoDirect website to help determine which ATMs are in or outside of the network. Just like any of us, if we use if we bank at a certain bank and we use an ATM outside of that network, we too will incur a small fee. So that does still apply.
So I want to use all my fun tools here. So
yes, I just see that you highlighted. I love it.
So this is the way, as part of our education for the people that we serve, we want to make sure that we're helping people avoid those unnecessary fees. Most of the people are living in poverty or have they obviously have a very fixed income. So we want to make sure that we're not burdening their budgets any further. So, teaching people how to, when they're at the grocery store buying necessary items, to keep in mind, well, do I need some cash? Am I going to be doing something later on that I need some cash, and to get that cash back at that time? So, for people who, like us, who may have been using debit cards for years now, and we've kind of become accustomed to that, some people have never really had to do anything like that, and they've never really dealt with that. So it's really important that we make people aware as far as like what the fees are going to be on the debit card. But as I said earlier, I think what I would encourage people to do is to help them create bank accounts, and the banks will also have some certain fees and things associated with it, but at least the person would be right there, and I don't think they're quite as onerous. Not that these are onerous, but I think it's a little more normalizing. So these are some of the optional services that people would have to pay for. One key one here would be the card replacement after one free each year. So you do get one free card replacement each year, so it's really important for people to be responsible, know where they place their cards, make sure they don't lose them, so they can don't have to pay $4 to get them replaced. And then there's some, overnight delivery is certainly rather costly as well. Let me go to some more questions. So if our organization is the rep pay for clients, what do we do in March? And I think I explained that earlier. How do we deduct the rent and give them the remaining amount? You want to, can you speak to that, Lauren?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Sure. How do we deduct the rent and give them the remaining amount for people who if an organization's a rep payee?
Sure, and if they work with a bank, is that what the question is? If they work with a financial institution and they collect federal benefit payments for multiple residents or clients, is that?
Yes.
So I believe, on a minute here, so my understanding is that you would be working with the financial institution to obviously provide you with detail regarding the electronic payments that are being made for the residents or the clients. And from there, you would be making those specific arrangements, I believe, to get the cash back that's required for various payments. Again, I want to encourage whomever did ask that question to definitely go back to the 1-800 number and even talk with the financial institution that you already work with, when you are setting some of this stuff up for your residents or the clients that you're working with.
Yes, and again, I would encourage people to teach the people in their program about being personally responsible for this, and to for them to make the deduction out of their own account and write you a check or make a money order, or however you would like to do it. I think that would be the way to go to be most in compliance, or to teach those skills, over time, but not to just create a system of codependence where the person is just sort of relying on the program to take care of all of those things, and then when they are ready to move out of the program, they're kind of at a loss. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience in my personal and my professional life at a housing program for people with mental illness. So there's another question about, can automatic payments be set up to come out of the Direct Express debit MasterCard, i.e. monthly rent payments?
There can be rent payments made using the card as long as the housing facility does use, if they accept, debit credit.
Right.
So I think that's a stipulation. Does the residents accept debit or credit, and that kind of dictates what the next step would be.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not, I don't know what I have not seen a housing program that has like, so they need like a card reader kind of thing, and swipe the card through and do something like that, like you do at a vendor.
Yes, I would assume so. That's correct.
So, and I would certainly not think that most landlords would have something like that. So again, I just want to reiterate to the point of ad nauseum that, having people set up their own checking accounts, they could write a check to their landlord or to the housing provider. Now, in regards to this, but related to this is, there are many of the utilities, so for people who are living in supported housing, many of the utilities do offer an automatic debit of the person's account. So that could be set up for like a National Grid or Long Island Power Authority or whichever energy person that agency that they use, or if they have cable. I mean, those things can be automatically deducted because they're, those are institutions, and most landlords or private landlords don't have that same sort of corporate ability to do that. So that is something that could be helpful for people to maintain their credit, by paying their bills on time, and it's one less thing that you have to think about or worry about and just have it automatically taken out. You do have to remember that it's being taken out though, so you do have to keep track of that. Next question is what to do if someone loses their card. I just pointed out what to do there, but what if they forget their PIN number?
Sure, and again, it's having obviously whomever is of ownership of the card holder should again reference the Treasury's Electronic Payment Solution Center, use that 1-800 number. That's where you should be reporting if a card is lost or stolen, some of those situations, and they will help rectify the situation and work with that individual card holder again to get a replacement card, as we had mentioned before. So this 1-800 number is really very valuable across the board for both benefit recipients as well as for all of you as people who are helping these individuals.
So just to reiterate, because we have another question about it, just to remind people, the number of paid or free card replacements per year per person, they'll get one free one per year. Then after that, you can see on the screen here that it says $4 after the first free one is sent, and then each time for that year. And then there are also fees if you need to have it expedited. So it's a $13.50 fee to have an overnight delivery. Question about how do I print the material on the screen, and I don't have this slide in the slideshow that you sent. These were separate documents that I sent both yesterday and this morning. So if you didn't get them, I do plan on sending them out again. So I'll send them out again after the webinar today. So you'll get those again, and then you can print them out. You wouldn't really. There's a way to print it out from the screen, but I'm not going to go into it here. So you can print it out at that time. I am planning an event here in Westchester County on this issue, and I would like someone from GoDirect to come and speak to people about this benefit. How would I make these arrangements?
So we currently are not kind of going into the field making such presentations at individual events, but we can arm you with the tools and resources that you would need, many of which are posted to the godirect.org website. There's some PowerPoint slides, talking points, and information kind of in that train the trainer sense that you can share this information at a venue where, excuse me, you might be having people gathering to talk about this. So that information is there. And again, we also have the printed materials that we can also provide to you at no charge or cost to yourself. So we have ways that we can make this information made available to you so that you can then share it in return at whatever kind of event you're setting up or forum, for instance.
And also, if there are people who are looking to have someone else attend the event, our staff, we have our staff in the various regions, and our staff has been educated on this subject, and we can certainly come out and be helpful and assist you if you run into any problems. So we really want to help spread the word. So we're available for that as well, and I'll follow up with you later. You can always call our office if you're looking for that. Our number is 518-473-6579. And you can speak to either Tom or Lizzie, let them know where you're from, and they can direct your call to the proper staff person in your area. Next question is, are the Pay-O-Matic and or check cashing centers an optional source for a direct deposit?
I mean, individuals can choose to go to any financial institution or entity to, obviously handle their federal benefit payments and how they want to deposit, cash them, and so forth. We don't kind of side with one or the other. So it's really up to the representative payee, or it's up to that individual benefit recipient to decide, again, how they want to handle their funds. But Treasury obviously recommends direct deposit, whether that be a bank account, a checking account, or a savings account, bank or credit union, in addition to the Treasury recommended Direct Express card. So those are the Treasury recommended options.
Yeah, and I would reiterate that, because even if the check cashing places are not a viable solution at the moment and they're not set up, once this change happens, they probably will try to develop something that to make this an option for folks. But those check cashing places, the deductions that they make for cashing the check are much more onerous than what you would find in a bank. A bank is going to have some interest rates that they'll be able to, gain some interest, however modest that may be, and a debit card is going to have some fees, but they're certainly manageable if a person plans correctly. But I am, hopefully not offending anyone, but I'm not particularly fond of the check cashing places. I feel they take advantage of our folks who don't have banking accounts. I think they charge too much money. Let's see. Next question. If people would like to go to an ATM with their debit card to take cash out, will they be charged extra fees? So I think we did discuss that there is a 90-cent for each withdrawal.
That's correct. After the free transaction is used, you get one free withdrawal for every benefit.
Deposit. Right?
Exactly.
So if a person gets their monthly check, they get one free withdrawal. After that, it's 90 cents on top of any surcharges that the ATM charges, and those are usually around $2 or $3 that I've seen throughout the state. So that's why I was saying the cash back with purchase right here. This is probably the way to go to teach people about managing their money and being planful. And that's good for all of us. Being impulsive and spontaneous with our spending, is a common problem for all of us in the United States. So it's certainly good for all of us to take a look at how we plan and budget. So let me go to the next question here. So a major concern for housing providers is that they will not receive rent and services payment from clients that are receiving direct deposit. Do you have any suggestions as to how to ensure payments?
I don't know if I can really speak to that. I think it's, again, working with residents to kind of come up with a process, a plan across the board in order to make sure that payments are being received and fulfilled. I personally don't really think I have much expertise to really jump in there.
Yeah, I'll jump in. What I would consider is there's a couple of ways to go. So you can have them. You can become the person's representative payee. So that's one way to do that, and then you become responsible for helping them with money management. So if you become the person's representative payee, then you will develop that. You can create that direct deposit account under the auspices of your agency. I had it up there a minute ago about the different deposit options, and here it is again. So on how to deposit it. So your agency would have a fiscal department or a financial department that would be able to use the best practices, so you can protect yourself from audits and things like that, to put the money into the account, deduct the agency, the program fee, and then distribute the personal needs allowance throughout the rest of the month to the person. So that's one way to do it. There's obviously several other different ways to create deposits and accounts based on this particular slide, and you can also call up the 1-800 number for that. But again, the normal thing in this world is if you are living in a house and have a mortgage payment, or if you are renting from a landlord, or if you're living in a program and paying the program to provide your meals and your housing and your electricity and all that stuff, then it's the person's responsibility to make sure they pay for that, or else the bank will take over the house, you'll get evicted, and same thing, these are the consequences of not paying your bills and not being responsible. So, I know that may sound kind of harsh, but it is the reality of the situation. And granted, our folks do have, there are various levels of cognitive disabilities that people have, but again, they do recover from those things. But it's our job to sort of teach those skills and to start raising those expectations of people. So that's another way to handle it. Another question is, if one goes to a surcharge-free ATM after having already used the one free withdrawal per deposit, does the 90-cent surcharge still apply?
Yes, so there's, again, the one free ATM cash withdrawal for each deposit posted to your account each month. And again, it's referencing that surcharge-free network so that you don't incur any additional charges by whomever operates that ATM.
Here's a couple of interesting questions. So if a person receives both SSI and SSDI, since those are two separate checks, are they entitled to two free withdrawals?
If an individual receives two federal benefit payments, then they would receive two free ATM cash withdrawals. So it's based on how many deposits are being posted to your account or card each month.
And another question related to this is, if a person receives both SSI and SSDI, will they receive two debit cards?
I believe, no, that the federal benefits, if you opt in to receive the Direct Express card, they both get put onto that one card. You would only get one card.
So if an individual right now does nothing, doesn't sign up, doesn't do anything, and they have a representative payee, what would happen?
So if an individual does, you mean if the individual does not make a switch by March 1st?
If they don't have a representative payee, they'll just automatically be enrolled in Direct Express and get the debit card.
So basically, the idea is that check recipients who do not choose an electronic payment option by March 2013 may receive their benefit payments via the Direct Express card to avoid any interruption in payment. So currently, if for people who have switched on their own, Treasury Department is really developing those strategies to ensure the transition to electronic payments is smooth for folks who have not made that switch. So, there's still testing and processes being, kind of finalized, but definitely the change will occur around the time of that deadline. But again, to avoid interruption in payment, the person may receive their payment via the Direct Express card.
So let me, just one piece of that question is that, so let's say I'm the representative payee for Joe. And, so I don't do anything. Now I'm supposed to go in and let the GoDirect people know and sign up as a representative payee. My name's on the check, his name's on the check.
Sure.
I don't do that. If I don't do anything, what happens? Does he get the direct deposit, does he get the GoDirect Express card anyways?
So that, like I mentioned, if it is a representative payee for an individual receiving the benefit, so only in terms of the Direct Express card, if you are a representative payee, only the representative payee's name appears on the card. So again, like I kind of mentioned, that the person will likely receive their benefit payment on the Direct Express card if no change has been made by the deadline. But again, this is still in a bit of the development process, so I don't have like a final answer to share with you at this time, but it is being sorted out and finalized right now.
So what I would say to that is that, well, this is part of your duties as a representative payee. So if you currently are a representative payee for people, then this would be part of your responsibility as taking ownership of that person's money management and their checks. So so it sounds like there may be that this could possibly create a delay in the person's receiving funds if the representative payee doesn't sign themselves up and make that switch and register with GoDirect.
Yeah, there isn't like an exemption, if you are a representative payee, it really is to follow that requirement of March
1st. So here's an interesting point. So why not just steer people towards checking accounts at credit unions? These allow free checking, provide a debit card, and allow for internet banking, such as arranging to make recurring payments to a landlord or utility company from a designated account.
Yeah, and Tony, to your point, there is no really right or wrong in this, and if you are a representative payee for someone or you are working with an organization that does case management for individuals, it's really up to you to steer that person in a certain direction as we kind of look ahead to the upcoming few months. If you prefer that individuals go to a credit union or a bank to set up direct deposit for their federal benefit, then you have the power to encourage that versus opting for the Direct Express card. So it's really up to you and that individual.
Yeah, I would say that that would be the ideal solution. Absolutely. I think that's definitely the way to go. Now not to be completely naive, a lot of our folks, a lot of people with mental health problems also have co-occurring substance abuse disorders. This can create the opportunity for some binge spending, binge drinking, binge drugging, and the next thing for people, that's usually why they have representative pays, because they have some sort of an addiction on top of their mental illness. So, so for people like that, we really do need to help teach them skills. Use our integrated treatment model, the stage-wise treatment that we use to help people move back into life and become responsible citizens. And this is part of it. And that's a negotiation to have individually with the people on your caseload around when they feel that they're ready to start practicing that. So certainly we don't want anybody to be worse off by blowing all their money. Certainly we know it happens. Next step is to help people understand that there are consequences when we do that. If any one of us spends all our money on something and we don't have the money we need to pay off our obligations, the banks are not particularly forgiving. But at least in my experience. So, credit card companies, all of that. They're not particularly forgiving, so we all have those consequences if we do that, and we're going to have to figure out ways to get our meals through things like food pantries and things like that. So again, not to sound harsh, but I'm just trying to be realistic. So another person asked, is there no limit on replacement cards per year?
No, again, going back to the table that you had up there, Tony, let's see if I have it right here somewhere. So no, again, it's one free, replacement card each year. And then following that, as I see Tony is scrolling down here, each replacement card is $4. So, however many times it would need to be replaced, that would be the fee after the one free card issued each year.
So if I've got the money to pay for it, I can get as many as I want.
That is my understanding. That's correct.
Now I remember at one of our meetings down in New York City where they were trying it out, and there were people They were using it with people who did have some substance abuse issues. Now there was, this is where the education comes in, because the folks, this was very new to them. They thought you get the card, you use it, and once the funds are expended on the card, you throw the card away. That was their experience, you know, like a gift card, you know. After you spend the money on the gift card, you throw the card away. Obviously, that's not what they're supposed to be doing. So, you know, things like that, we do need to make sure that people understand that this card is theirs, you know, in perpetuity. That it's not to be thrown away after the funds expend, because the following month the funds will be back in there again and get deposited again. So next question is, what protections exist at the 1-800 number to stop others from getting another client's card?
I've actually never received that question. To prevent someone from getting someone else's card, I really don't. I can ask. I can find out kind of what's in place. You know, once that card is mailed and delivered to the recipient or representative payee that signed up for it. But I've actually never encountered that inquiry before.
Yeah, my guess would be, you know, when I was looking on the site to set up a rep as a rep payee, you actually had to type in like the Social Security number or the check number. So, you know, the Medicaid number of the person, or Medicare number.
Yeah, there's like a claim number. I mean, yeah definitely. Yeah. Obviously, to sign up for, you know, either direct deposit to, you know, a bank or credit union, or to the card, there's those specific things that I mentioned in the presentation that you need in order to sign up. So those two are also kind of security measures to make sure that, you know, everything is being set up for the correct person.
So there's probably some very, you know, person-specific questions that they would ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next question is, we receive over 100 benefit checks a month on behalf of our clients. How will we identify the electronic transfers to the individuals?
Sure. So that again goes back to working with the financial institution, that then they can provide you with the details included in the electronic payment file that's set up to help kind of reconcile and determine which payment belongs to which individual. And, you know, they can kind of organize it accordingly to make sure that you guys have the accurate information. So I do believe that goes back to working with the financial institution when you do set up the direct deposit function.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, if the resident is disabled, can the agency be the representative payee? And that is, yes, they can.
Yes, I would say that is, yes.
But I would like to just, you know, put a nuance in here, is that, you know, if someone is disabled and able to manage their money, then there would be there wouldn't be any benefit for the person for the agency to be the representative payee. Representative payee-ship should, you know, the criteria for that should not be, it shouldn't be that because it's more expeditious in regards to this new deposit system, or the way the money is being distributed electronically. That should not be the criteria that it's easier or more convenient for the agency and staff. You know, I mean, I know that staff have plenty of work to do, and this is not, you know, it's not a good long-term solution. So if a person is disabled, that does not equal that they are poor at managing their money. So I did want to put that out there because it seemed like that was in the inherent in the question, so I wanted to delineate that. What if someone attempts to buy something more than they have in the account?
Sure. So basically, if someone does get down to, you know, $0 in terms of their balance, if you do make a purchase, the card will be, you know, denied, especially for all future purchases until your card is reloaded the next month, when that benefit again is pre-deposited onto the card that you use long term. Again, it's not like a gift card where you do throw it away and you get a new one the next time the benefit is deposited.
And then if this was a direct deposit situation, it would be the same thing as what would happen to anyone who has like a bank account or a checking account.
Correct. I'm sorry, I did not.
In that case, there would be overdraft or potential overdraft fees if a person spends more than they have in the account.
And again, that's always determined individually wherever you do choose to bank, whether it be a bank, credit union. It's all up to those institutions.
Okay, so the next question is, we currently have an account set up for the direct deposit of funds for the consumers we are the representative payees for. Can we use this same account for the direct deposit of funds for consumers that we are not the representative payee for, but authorize their funds to be deposited into our account?
Sorry, I think I would need you to repeat that.
Sure. So currently they have an account set up for direct deposit for the people that they are representative payees for.
Okay.
The agency also has people that they are not the representative payees for, but can they authorize that the funds be deposited into their account without having to go through the representative payee process?
I believe you would need to be the representative payee for folks and go through the process of working with the agency that distributes the benefit in order to be set up as a rep payee. I can seek further clarification on that, but I would believe you would have to be the rep payee. But again, don't want to misspeak. We can route that question to folks that could provide an accurate answer.
But again, and without knowing the specifics about the people that they're speaking of, again, if the person has not been deemed as someone who needs a representative payee, this is a good opportunity to start teaching people about setting up their own bank accounts and being responsible and managing their money and keeping track of their money and what bills they owe and things like that. That is, all of our OMH programs have service plans that they need to be working on with people and teaching them skills and working towards goals. These are all perfect things to work on and get the Medicaid reimbursable billing that we do. These are all perfect things that would fit very well in the daily living skills service and all of the different services that are supposed to be provided by our providers. So again, this is perfect for that. So next is, can we become a consumer's representative payee without the 787 form? Which is kind of similar to the previous question.
Yeah, you definitely, if you are going to be a representative payee for an individual, you do have to follow the specific requirements in order to actually sign up to be one. So I would think if you do need to be the representative payee for an individual, yes. But again, if the individual doesn't necessarily need a representative payee, then that wouldn't be necessary and they would be able to kind of manage their funds on their own.
Okay, next question is, do the federal laws still apply that bar creditors from collecting against SSI or SSD?
And you're referring, say that again?
So do the federal laws still apply that bar creditors from collecting against SSI, SSD, or SSDI? I think what they're saying is, if I have a debt that needs to be paid, they can garnish my wages, but they can't garnish federal benefits. They can't garnish, so debt collectors can't garnish federal benefits or pensions, I believe is what it is. And that's the current law. So I don't think that would change at all.
No, and I believe it's whatever the current law is, it wouldn't change in any way.
Yeah, there hasn't been a change to the federal law.
Yep.
So, is there a minimum balance to be kept on the card?
There is not.
Okay. If the consumer gets a large back payment, will the payment go to the card?
Any payment related to federal benefit payments and receiving that on a monthly basis, I would assume that it would be directly deposited onto the card, but I'm not familiar with kind of the back payment function. So again, I can get clarification on that piece of it.
And again, you know, this would be part of the financial literacy, as well as a good role to have a benefits specialist. If a person does get a large back payment, they could be in a situation where they need to do a spend down, or they need to do something in regards to that. There's many mechanisms in place to avoid a spend down, and we should all be taking a look at that to make sure that we don't end up gypping people out of money that is rightfully theirs. But there's a lot of tools in place, and I would encourage people to get more education around benefits training. So again, just that's part of the deal of being a rep payee. So it's also good just for programs to be helpful. Next question: what if someone steals my debit card and uses it? What protections are in place at this point?
Sure. Again, so like I mentioned before, the card is FDIC insured, and you also have, excuse me, the PIN number. But again, when the card is lost or stolen and it's recognized that the card has been lost or stolen, that is when you, in a timely manner, do call the 1-800 number to report the situation related to your card.
Okay, next question. Can card holders add funds to the card?
You cannot. It's simply the mechanism to receive that federal benefit payment, and funds cannot be added.
So they would need to, you know, if somebody if they had a job or a regular source of income, probably if they wanted to be saving money, they would probably want to do the bank account thing. So
correct.
All right. Next question is, since we get over 150 checks, our financial institution told us we need to get a list of names from Social Security. How could we get that?
You would need to contact a local Social Security representative to kind of talk through that process. You'd have to go to the paying agency and then work with your financial institution.
Yeah, and I think you would need to be the rep payee for those 150 people.
Yes, that was an assumption that I made if that was the case, but that's correct.
I don't think they would give you the information unless they have that on file that they were authorized to. So next question is, what is a facility resident trust account and how can payments be made from that account?
I believe that information is included in, oh, Tony, are you on that presentation?
I moved it over to the Q&A.
Yes.
Over here where it's got some information about resident trust accounts. So there's several things in here. So what I would do is take a look at this, and then you can call the customer service line for Go Direct Express if that doesn't answer your question. Okay. I only have a couple more questions here. So if anyone has any other questions that they want to send in, please do. Can we get a copy of this PowerPoint? Yes, I did send it out earlier. Yes, this morning, and I will send it out again afterwards because I know some people don't get it. Just another question, can I make the print larger on the webinar? Well, when I send you the documents, you'll be able to make the print as large as your program will allow. As far as like Word, one's a Word document, one's a PDF, so you can certainly enlarge them. Next question is, we called our local Social Security office and they told us that they do not have a system in place yet. And this is in regards to, this is the same person asked the question about they get over the over 150 checks.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think if, again, it would be if you are the representative payee, it's again working with your financial institution, and I mean maybe giving another call to your local Social Security office, or even referencing again the Electronic Payment Solution Center to try to get some clarity on who your kind of point person should be, or a point organization or agency should be, to kind of get that sorted out. That would probably be my recommendation in terms of next steps.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a little confused about the question. Maybe we can talk to this person later, because if you get the checks, then you would know the person's name would be on the check, so you would know who the people are.
Yeah,
So I mean, you could just take the checks and just write the names of the people who get the checks. Unless I'm missing something, I don't know. But either way, they would need to, assuming that they are the representative payee for the folks, they would need to go and put the, they would need to change and do, do the form of changing, of registering as a representative payee with GoDirect. Correct?
Yes, they would need to, yes, that's correct. You'd have to, I really think when there are shifts and changes being made, it's obviously figuring out what shift that's going to be. You're opting in to set up, direct deposit as the representative payee. It's working with the Treasury's Electronic Payment Solution Center to set that up, fill out all appropriate forms, and also just make sure that you are following the correct steps as designated by the paying agency for the federal benefit. Those would be kind of the point places in the process.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we're going to touch base with these folks afterwards, because they're saying that the direct deposits don't have names associated with them, and that's the issue. So, and that they are the client's rep payees. So we'll have to touch base with them later.
Okay, yeah, and again, obviously if there are questions that come up following the webinar, we're keeping a list of questions, but we can always obviously get further clarification on things. This conversation doesn't have to really stop here. We want to make sure, we can try to get you the most accurate information and point you to the right folks to get it. So that's probably the best next step for everyone.
Okay. Next question is, our local Social Security office has stated that our organization will be exempt from the direct deposit requirement. We are the payee for over 150 individuals. This is a different organization. So we are the payee for over 150 individuals and receive all benefits by paper checks each month. Is there an exemption organizations can apply for, and is our local Social Security office correct?
That I don't know. From my understanding and knowledge, there isn't an exemption per se as really like the representative payee, and that you would not be exempted and you would need to follow the electronic payment requirement. But again, it's calling the Solution Center to figure out where that lies, and then potentially reconnecting with your local SSA office. That's my understanding.
Yeah, and generally speaking, if there is an exemption possible in that regards, my guess is there'd be some kind of application process. You'd have to probably, we love forms in the bureaucracy, so there's probably some kind of form or something.
I would believe that there, would be a form, something you would need to complete in order to kind of get that approved, if that was the case or not. So
I defer to you, but I've never heard of any exemptions other than an age exemption, right? The only one is that there's an age exemption where I think if a person is, 80 or 90?
Yeah, in terms of like the waiver, for instance,
Yeah.
it's people that are 90 years of age and older can continue to receive paper checks. And again, if there are folks who do receive, mental health services and so on, I think that there's also some folks might find it more difficult to handle. The card option, for instance, rather than getting the paper check. These are all things that would be, again, brought to that solution center, and then appropriate next steps would be determined whether or not there's a form to fill out in order to kind of navigate that waiver process. But again, that would be something that you would need to comply with whatever forms are required to be considered. Those are kind of the next steps.
Okay, so I got one more question here. So if we arrange, and this looks like it's a housing provider, if we arrange for a credit card machine to be able to debit the program fee / rent from the consumer's Direct Express card, what would happen if we swipe the card but the funds are not yet available?
If the funds are not available, then that would mean that the card, it would be denied, basically, because if there's $0, it kind of acts in a way like a gift card in a way. Once that money is gone, it technically is inactive until the benefit gets reloaded again.
Mm-hmm. So presumably the first of the month.
Correct. Whenever
the first, yeah, and I'm assuming that this is going to be pretty expeditious. I mean, if the person gets paid on the first, generally gets their check on the first, then their money would be in the bank account on the first, correct?
Yes.
Now, what if it's on a Saturday or Sunday or a holiday? What if the first falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or holiday? Would that delay it in any way?
I don't believe so. I believe that their scheduled payments appear on the day in which the payment is supposed to arrive. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it's impacted by that.
Yeah, so that's another good thing about this. I don't see any other questions on there. Lauren, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, and I really think it's utilizing the tools and the representatives at the actual Treasury Payment Solution Center to kind of navigate the process individually. They are really those experts in terms of helping you all, as well as the actual benefit recipient, navigate through the process. So, although, yes, I have been really deferring to that number, it really is the best source to kind of get those individual situations sorted out, and, of course, working with the paying agency for the benefits for the federal benefit recipient. So I appreciate everyone's questions, and definitely, Tony can kind of help to facilitate any additional questions that you all might have, and we can work to get those questions answered if we can, or obviously point you to the right folks. So I appreciate it.
So while we were talking, there were a couple more questions that came in. So again, can card holders add funds to the card? We answered that earlier, and the answer was no. And then, so the person won't get a payment early if it is a holiday.
I do need to get clarification, but I believe the payment will arrive on payment day each month, just like when you would normally get the paper check. So I would think that it could maybe potentially arrive early if it's a holiday, but I believe it's on the day that it's supposed to be issued.
Mm-hmm. And then the one last question here. So what happens when a client refuses to sign on to this change? It's not optional. They would need to. They would just automatically be enrolled in Direct Express.
Yeah, and that, again, as I mentioned before, those final details, obviously, to ensure that folks do transition to electronic payments, are still kind of being finalized. But again, the idea would be so that there is no interruption in payment. the benefit recipient may receive their benefit on the Direct Express card. So that's really all the information I currently have at this time.
Yeah, and I want to thank Lauren for her excellent presentation, and I want to thank her for her time and answering the questions. I really do appreciate that. I want to just remind people also of the Serenity Prayer to be able to have the courage to change the things I can, accept the things that I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is one of those things that we cannot change. This is going to happen. So the best thing that we can do as providers and people who care for other people in our system is to help mitigate the problems before they occur. So it's really important for us to educate people, teach them the skills that they need to manage money. And again, I'll also send out some links on the FDIC Smart Money program, so you can get some education on that. There's free materials there to teach these good skills. So that's our charge, is to make the best of this situation. And frankly, this is a good thing in my opinion, because it helps to normalize the experience. Most people today do use some form of electronic way to pay for their food and for their different things. So having a swiper card like this is very normal in this society. And there's always good and bad things to every change. But let's just focus on what we can do to be helpful and keep people in the 21st century and to help keep them integrated into our society. So, all right, with that, I'm going to thank everyone for coming again today. We will have another webinar in January. We had to cancel our one on the State of the State of the Office of Consumer Affairs, our annual progress report. So we're probably looking to do that next month in January, and I'll send that out to folks so you can sign up and join us for that. I'm looking forward to next year. January will be our 5th year of doing this, which is pretty amazing. So we've been doing this monthly for the last 5 years, and I appreciate everyone's attendance over that time, and all the ideas and feedback that you've given us to help make these even better and ever more successful. So thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.